The member, the question is that the report of the Commerce Committee on the 20809 financial review of Mighty River Power Limited be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Those to the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The next entity I understand members wish to debate is New Zealand Post Limited. The question is that the report of the Commercial Committee on the 2008-09 financial year of New Zealand Post Limited be noted.
Mr. Chair.
Stuart Nash.
Much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask the members, if you were to give me $1 and I was to promise you I could turn it into $10 over 8 years, would you invest with me? Absolutely. $1 turn into $8 over 10 years. That is a pretty... Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That shows confidence. Well, I'll tell you what. That's what Kiwi Bank has done. With an initial investment of $80 million, this bank is now worth $800 million by some valuations. And the national government wants to sell it. The national government wants to sell Kiwi Bank. And those who doubt this have had their heads in the sand. Now, some of my colleagues have outlined the economic and financial reasons for not selling Kiwi Bank, and you could write a book about these. And a few of these have been outlined by Mr. Mallard and Mr. Cunliffe, but what I will do is I'll outline a few philosophical and social reasons why this bank should not be sold. Why would you sell it? Mr. Chairman, we are now talking about a bank, Kiwi Bank, that was set up by the government in 2002 against strong opposition from the National Party, but it was set up because there was a belief that the major Australian banks were gorging profits of ordinary New Zealanders and that we needed to have a say in our market. We needed to have some influence. This was Jim Anton's vision, backed up by the passion of the Labour Party, of the Labour government for New Zealand and for New Zealanders. Now, it's a fact, Mr. Chair, that the 4 major Australian banks send profits offshore greater than the entire profit of all the companies listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. About $2.6 billion, that's $2.6 billion in profits made from Kiwis is sent offshore annually by the Australian-owned banks. Kiwi Bank returns profits to New Zealanders, which is us, the New Zealand taxpayer. The IRD recently reached a settlement worth close to $1 billion against the 4 major Australian banks over tax avoidance. If Kiwi Bank had been owned offshore, that would have been 5 banks. And we have Kiwi Bank, our bank. How many New Zealanders do you think have invested in Kiwi Bank? How many New Zealanders do you think have put money directly into Kiwi Bank? Thousands? 500,000? 800,000 New Zealanders. 800,000 New Zealanders have put their money in a bank set up by New Zealanders for New Zealanders. This is our bank. I have accounts with them because I believe the competition they brought to the market was not only good, it was vital. And I support that. 800,000 other Kiwis also supported that. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's estimated that Kiwi Bank has saved New Zealanders around about $1 billion. That's $1 billion in interest payments due to the increased competition it has brought to the market. And Bill English and John Key want to sell it. Why would you want to sell Kiwi Bank? God knows, God knows. Perhaps it's to pay for the tax cuts for the most wealthy in society. For example, as we know, the CEO of Telecom has just received $1,650 per week extra in the hand, whereas a person on the medium wage in Napier is just about to receive $3 a week after GST. Don't be jealous, yes. Is this why Kiwi Bank is being sold? Is this why Kiwi Bank's being sold? Well, I can tell the members of that side of the House that all New Zealanders are now saying enough to asset sales. Labor will fight the sale of Kiwi Bank to the bitter end. Make no bones about that. But are we surprised? Are we surprised that the government is now talking about this? Well, listen to this from Bill English. Election 2008. Bill English said National will sell Kiwi Bank eventually, but not now. There is no ambiguity there. Eventually, but not now. The day after the budget this year, Bill English floated the idea of selling Kiwi Bank in a speech. He believes there will be a strong demand among mum and dads for a Kiwi investment model if we have put product into a market, people would buy it. Why do they need to buy it? They already own it. It is our bank. It is owned by every single New Zealander. Kiwi Bank is New Zealand owned, as all their ads say, and it is the only bank in this country that can say it is 100% New Zealand owned. Well, that was Bill English, Finance Minister. Now, I wonder, was that decision of Bill English to raise the sale of Kiwi Bank the day after the budget, an attempt to foster debate about asset sales? Was that about to foster debate about asset sales, Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair? Thank you. Or maybe it was an attempt to foment trouble with his leader. Well, what does his boss have to say about this? In fact, John Key's talk with forked tongue. And I suspect sometimes he doesn't know whether he's Arthur or Martha. For example, John Key said on at least 9 occasions, including May 2007, 5th, 6th, 7th of August 2008, 21st, 22nd of October 2008, 4th, 5th of November 2008, that it was National's policy never to sell Kiwi Bank, ever. Then, yes, you can't trust him. Then John Key said that a decision on whether to sell Kiwi Bank would be made in the second term if National was re-elected. Which John Key is telling the truth? Neither. The same John Key that said, I will not increase GST.
Can't trust that one.
That wasn't ambiguous, and we all know what happened there. Asset sales represent a huge destruction of Kiwi wealth. The vast majority of Kiwis understand this, and that is why polling shows that 80% of New Zealanders are against asset sales. 80% of New Zealanders are against asset sales. In fact, 53% of Kiwis aren't buying National Spin, and they actually think, 53% of Kiwis think John Key will try and sell our assets. Abraham Lincoln once said, you can fool some of the people all the time, you can fool all the people all the time, but not Mr. Key and Mr. English, all the people all of the time. And this time, Mr. Chair, New Zealanders can see through the rhetoric, the spin, the smokescreen, the PR. And New Zealanders know that this government has a privatisation agenda. And Kiwi Bank is top of that list. The National Government keeps saying that they're going to take the sale of state-owned assets to the electorate in 2011. Well, I look forward to that. In fact, I am relishing the prospect of standing on stage with the National MP based in Napier while he justifies to the good people of Napier the sale of Kiwi Bank. I can't wait for that. I would love to attend a public meeting called by the National Party to explain the sale of Kiwi Bank. In fact, I welcome it. I challenge Mr. Foss to organise a meeting in Hawke's Bay to debate the sale of Kiwi Bank. I can't wait. Mr. Speaker, I would like to reiterate that all New Zealanders own Kiwi Bank. 800,000 New Zealanders have put money in Kiwi Bank. 800,000, and they have choices. They have choices in this market. But 800,000 New Zealanders, at least, they have confidence in this bank, unlike that government that wants to sell it. This is a very successful bank from a profit perspective, but also from a social perspective. It is very good at keeping the big four banks honest, because it makes it very difficult for the big four banks to act in unison against the interest of New Zealand consumers. If it is sold, there is no doubt whatsoever it will be sold to offshore interests. No doubt. It will not be a New Zealand bank if it is sold. And I tell you, the only people who are looking forward to the sale are the merchant bankers who are salivating like wolves and circling like vultures waiting for the kill. These are the same bankers, these are the same merchant bankers that put the world into the economic recession we are at the moment. Well, I can tell those bankers that Kiwi Bank is not for sale. It is our bank. It is New Zealand Bank, and Labour will fight tooth and nail to ensure that Kiwi Bank remains in New Zealand ownership. If it is sold, all New Zealanders will be losers. The Labour Party will not let Kiwi Bank be sold. The National Party wants to sell it. Mr. Key wants to sell it. Mr. English wants to sell it. Mr. Goff will fight tooth and nail to ensure Kiwi Bank is not sold. Mr. Chair, the retiring CEO of Kiwi Bank said, don't sell it. the former National Prime Minister